All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is The Press coming to you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. And like I promised earlier, we've now been joined by his guest. His name is Duke Alamboye. He's the policy analyst. Together, we shall be taking a look at the headlines I read out to you earlier. And our phone lines are now open for you to call and join the conversation. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
It's so good to have you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
So if we take a look at the Borders headline on the Punch this morning and the picture story on the Nigerian Tribune. The headline on the Punch says ASUU protests as more universities hike fees, and then we see a picture of students from Unilag are protesting in Unilag yesterday. So before we get into these headlines I just mentioned, when you hear education sector in Nigeria, what comes to your mind?
Well, nothing much. It's old stories still peddling around. We all are aware that the interest or the opportunity invested in education is not as standard. And I don't know why, while we grew up, while we're growing, they say education is the bedrock of every society. You know, you have to get educated, and educated society does very well. And our parents put in a lot. If there is nothing to even eat at home, our parents are sure that your educational standard is up to, even when you are attending a public sector, that's in the primary and the secondary level, you are well read, you know. But today we see little or no interest in the upliftment in educational standard in Nigeria. It's so disheartening. I'm not even going to talk about, nobody talks about primary school and secondary school anymore. That system is already almost gone. It's like everybody should put in your best, try and attend anything and get to the university. What people are talking about now is even the university. But what about the
foundation?
Yeah, the foundation, the formative aspect of education. You see, public schools are becoming an easy walk ride. You can just, you are not attending, you're in primary 6, you're in primary 6, you're passing, nobody cares. But except with few schools that are really determined to still maintain that standard. Nobody talks about curriculum activities again in secondary schools or primary schools. So our attentions are even drawn to even the basic one that keeps you out into the world, where you begin to form who you actually become in the society. And you can see the lots of decay in that system, you know, and it's so disheartening. Our government, the people in the sector, the key players in the sector are not doing enough to make education attractive anymore. So you see education these days now is the contemporary education is struggling really with skill acquisitions. So many people, so many youths, so many parents are beginning to resolve that it's best their kids
your children acquire skills
and then know that you're progressing in your business world than going to school for 6 years in primary school, 6 years in secondary school, then 4 or 5 years in the university, coming to serve, and that's almost how many years in one's life, and then you're not even sure of what you're becoming, and even to aspire to catch up your dreams. Most persons have read so many professions and come out to become some other thing. People have graduated out of universities and still look for handiworks to do to survive. So you can clearly see that the level of education is dropping, while skills acquisitions, green skills acquisitions, and handiworks are thriving. If you look at even then, one thing that is also helping again the educational sector is that where are the employables? Where are the values for even you going to school and graduate? You go and study economics, you come back to the society, you don't have where to be employed. You only see employment for what do you call menial jobs, secretarial jobs, your core profession. You come back as a doctor, you do not even have an hospital to employ you. Business is not thriving. So these are things that are checked in juxtaposition with the educational standard. And if it is quite viable, what about the sustainability? You've gone to school for 4 years, graduated as a business administrator. There is no firm, there is no businesses to even employ you. So we need to do a lot in the educational standard of our country and improve it very well. There must be deliberate attempt to check the indices, go through the lines what is getting wrong? Is it the standard of lecturers? Is it the standard of teachers? Is it the standard of infrastructure in the educational sector, school buildings, school environment? Is it the cost for education? Is this standardization of education? They have to look at all these indices, bring them together, and ensure that, look, a deliberate attempt is made to revive the educational standard. You go to some universities, you can, for the sciences, you can barely even do practical.
True.
You see students buy equipment, buy materials for themselves to do practical. I can tell you, let's not always end this discussion at the pages and the faces of media and social media. Let's, before we bring these topics to bear, let's visit schools, let's sample so that people can, the public can see what we are talking about. And universities, just take a few private universities off and a few government-owned universities off. You will see that the standard has really dropped to an unbearing this thing. Hostels are not even inadequate. Inadequate. So you see the Nigerian student struggling through this process for the years acquired or to its course, 4 or 5 years, going through a lot, even in the school system, to talk of tuition fees, to talk of lecturers' handouts and textbooks and all of that. So I think there's a lot to be done to cushion the effect of the decay in that sector. The ministry should take a good look. I'm not even saying, like I said, I'm not even talking about the secondary schools. Good 18, we have so many private schools that are doing fantastically well at the secondary level and primary level. In those days, if you're not attending a public school, it's like you've not attended any school. The private schools are even seen as not registered and not authentic. If you came from a primary school, I can say that a private school rather, and I attended a public school. In those days, it's like I'm the one that attended a school. So you see every parent wants his or her child to attend a public school because of the standard and the curriculum activities at that time. But today, we see what we're seeing is the private school are even taking over, producing better students within the secondary and primary level of education. What I'm even talking about is still where it is big, still where we have an infinite percentage of investment in the private sector. How many private universities do we have in Nigeria as against the public universities? And how affordable are they? So you still see that when it comes to that level, almost every household have a child in the public universities. So this is where the problem is. This is where I think government should give attention to.
All right. Now, since you're ending that speech with government giving attention to the universities or to the educational sector, so it's more like the universities have been clamoring for the government to fund activities and fund education, and maybe that was not coming through, and they decided to take matters into their hands, because we've seen lots of tertiary institutions hikes the fees by over 200%, 140% in different areas. And in a communique issued by most of those schools, they said that they attributed that the development to the rising cost of learning materials and the need to adequately fund their activities in their respective institutions. So this is where ASUU and the parents are protesting. The hike in fees, like it's something else. If I'm going to let me take for instance, now in Bafemi Awolowo University, the new students will be admitted into the College of Health Sciences. The Faculty of Pharmacy will now pay 190,000, while returning students who used to pay 28,000 naira will now pay 128,200. That's 100,000 naira increment. And this is just one of the many. There are more that have 150,000 naira increment. So take this side by side with the reason why they decided to do this increment. Was it really called for?
Yes, I think first of all, let us take it back to the basis. How do the Ministry of Education do their budgets? I think it's a collation of several vast expenditure within their operations.
Yeah.
from their tertiary institutions to the secondary to the primary, public sector education, and all of that. The assessment and every totality of activities in the educational sector is what brings about the budget for the Ministry of Education. If that is the case, what is the replenishment system after budget has been released? Is the problem coming from the fact that governments are not releasing those budgets? Year in, year out, we see presentation of budgets in the assembly. We've not seen where education is being challenged, even though in time past we've seen just a few percentage of national income appropriate to education. The funding from federal government actually to education is too small. Is not good enough to rise the standard of education. Now, even the little that comes, what are the procedures? What are the measures? Who monitors the activities of how these fundings are disseminated? So these are the issues. It's one thing to say that they are not funded. It's one thing to also say that are they the monies that they even give to them? What do they do with it? The level of corruption in the civil service and in the public sector is so high that people compromise every little thing that comes on board. And then the most painful aspect of this is that the burden of these ineptitudes is being put into the parents and the students attending school. That is one side. If you take a look at the other side again, of course, the poor funding is not is a fact to behold. It's a fact that government are not really funding education. They have left the running of the school system in the hands of the administrators. And of course, the school must continue. Our school activities must be carried on. Practicals must be done. Equipments must be bought. Students must earn the effect of them going to school. So the last resort you see they do is to hike these prices, the cost for education, so that they can also meet up certain responsibility within the school system. But basically, I think there's a lot the government needs to do. At the end of the day, you see parents and students taking up these strikes because they are taking up these calls and strikes and worries because they are the end users of this, the end effect of all this that is happening. What about? I have not seen where a principal, I have not seen where a vice chancellor, I have not seen where a head of a university comes out to. They have a union too.
Yes.
I've not seen where they come out to vocally stand firm to say they won't exist. They will stop the school system if government do not fund education. We're not seeing them doing all of that. So is there any compromise at that level? Okay. These are the many questions which also ask ourselves. The burden goes to the students. The high school school tuition fees and all of that, and students revolt. What about the people that the administrators, the school administrators that are having the effect of this underfunding?
What about ASUU?
What are they doing? What are they doing? ASUU, over time, the fight we've been hearing about ASUU is, if you look at their demand, are basically a frontier demand. These demands they are having with federal government, or the negotiation they're having with Ministry of Education, what is the effect? What have come out of it? We saw their demands last time they went on strike and all of that. Quite laudable. But what is the way forward? What are they projecting? Before you begin to put the burden on students. I understand their position in all of this. The school system must run. If they decide to close the school system again, it will have an overall effect on the process. I think they're even stage managing the session now to meet up those long time of breaks they've had. So, but I think government need to hold their hands together and see how they can help. It is unbearable. The economy is so down. Per capita income is so insignificant in families. No production in the country, and at a time like this, parents are going to pay through their nose for their children to get educated. Like I said, the consideration is becoming too high. People are asking themselves, if I will pay such much for 4 years, and then even at the end of 4 years or 5 years course, a child or a student or a graduate will not even have a sustainable job. people are beginning to ask themselves, why not we invest into skill acquisition?
But don't you think that's also the right path to go with entrepreneurial education and skill acquisition?
Yes.
If you have to spend this huge amount for 4 years, let's take you into consideration you're just going to university, and for the first year you're paying 190 something thousand.
Yeah.
You have 4 years to go.
Yes.
With a father or a mother that earns 33,000 as minimum wage.
Yes.
So if you put all this together and you decide to learn a skill, in 2 or 3 years you are doing something good for yourself. So
yes.
my question is, must we always go through this route?
Yeah, the issue here is we are in a country where even that sector, the skills sector, the entrepreneurial sector we're talking about, is not admitting people they call undergraduates. For you to even acquire a skill, you have the skill. People begin to also go through your educational standard. Have you attended university? Which is, to me, is actually wrong. If you have finished your secondary education and you're scheduled to go in for a trade, and you've met all requirements in that trade, for goodness sake, nobody should be asking if you've attended a university. Then there's also this stigma as people grow. You see your mates attended university, you are maybe you went into hairdressing and all of that. You begin to feel stigmatized that you never went to the university. So there's a lot of orientation that should be done. If there's a good disparity between formal education and the entrepreneurial education, I think people will begin to see reasons that they are all equal opportunities. One does not supersede the other. What you are going to do is get the formal education. Most times what happens in the university, you still come back to see how you can practicalize them to have a physical experience of what you've studied. So there are two worlds that are on parallel lines that one do not depend on the other. If today I graduate as an engineer, as I see someone that is a technician, he never went to the university, he went straight to technical school and did automobile, and then he is very strong in the engineering sector when the stuff comes to automobile. I have gone to the university, learned practical. When I meet him on field, he will still be my better. What he wouldn't have had is the theoretical aspect of study. That is just the difference. But when it comes to practically producing and maintaining, I think they are two persons that will have their standards correct. So there is no difference, there is no disparity between those two levels of education. The problem is the orientation. The problem is the feel for being stigmatized that you never gone to university. So you see everybody in every home, they must produce a graduate. It has not been known that they must produce an entrepreneur. They must produce someone that is skilled and that can go into 2 years course, get his skills right, get employed or be self-empowered and produce for what it takes. My friend closely, that we all left secondary school together, while we were struggling to attend the university or the polytechnics, he busy went into handkerchief making.
Okay.
And today is one of the biggest boy in Lagos producing handkerchiefs for the country. So these are the things that we must put together. However, it does not take away that system where you have to go to the university. Somebody must go to the university. People must attend the university. But the skills, the entrepreneurial studies are also very formal in our existence. Becoming more even formal in our existence, where you do not have levels of strike, where you do not have, I'm not advocating for that kind of education, but they are parallel educations where people should begin to diversify their attention into, and so that it will give less burden also to the tertiary institutions. And parents will begin to have the satisfaction of, okay, it must not be the university. Yes, take a course in the skills sector, in the entrepreneurial sector, come out very fantastically well and do very well, and then go into the world and produce.
All right.
Yeah.
I think with that we have to end that conversation, because I am actually still hoping for the federal government to say something in that regard, because it's more like the universities.
The truth is that, sorry to cut you, the truth is that our federal government even invested in entrepreneurial. That's why I use the word orientation. By the time there's good awareness, how many schools does entrepreneurial studies? few that inculcate that into their curriculum. How many schools? But do you know that there could be technical school? In River State, there's a technical school, but people are not attending. You don't have so many people that even attend those technical schools are dropouts, or people that they feel that do not have the financial capacity to learn, to go to the university. But it is not the case. You can still run a university program and run an entrepreneurial program. You can solely run an entrepreneurial program, come out in the society and become who you want to become. So government, I understand your point. Government still also need to also invest in that sector. What are we talking about? They are not even investing in the educational sector.
And you want to talk about investment in skill acquisition.
So there's a lot that needs to be done. We are gradually going down. The country is not producing young talents that will take over in this sector, and it is dangerous. We are seeing turning over of people within the system over and over, not only in the political sector. We have to come down to the technocrat sector. We have to come down to the skill sector. You see, people are turning out themselves year in, year out. They are not producing young ones that will take up. There are no much research that is being carried out to see how we can produce efficiently within our reach, to see how we can provide sufficiently for ourselves. Agriculture, one good aspect. Nobody, no parents, out of five children or out of five families, you can barely count how many people that wants to do agriculture, and that is because the viability in that sector is not pronounced. The orientation that, look, you must not go to the university to study agriculture. You can actually start it from the level of entrepreneurship to acquire whatever skills you want to acquire, and then get it formally done and proceed for progression. So that is the case we have.
All right. Now moving away from that conversation, let's talk about issues of insecurity, because yesterday on the program, a lot of our callers raised these issues of insecurity.
Yeah.
And we've talked about issues of insecurity for the longest time in Nigeria. I don't even know how long more we have to talk about it. This is from ANSA, and it says, proceedings from kidnapping used to finance terrorism. And I'm wondering, how did we get here? Because I remember, I don't know if I get it correctly, 2 years ago, when during the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, we had that there's a list of terrorism financiers that the federal government does not want to release, but they know them. So if we had that, and now we are having this, that this proceeds from kidnapping is what is used to finance terrorism, that means we have a step in the right direction, but still we're not ending these issues of insecurity.
Okay, like I wanted to wrap up the educational discussion by saying that government have a lot to do, and we want to believe that we have a government at hand today, and that their ministers just came in, and I'm sure they are all studying these situations at hand. They are all putting their heads together to see how they can come up with something very strong to affect this decay in our educational sector. We want to urge this administration to see it as a priority to ensure that we don't experience strike. All this hike in education is a thing of the past. They should give good attention to funding. I think they've not had any budget to present, but I'm sure their first budget, we will see where education is given a priority. And the president sometimes has told Nigerians that he's going to have basic and concentrated attention on education. So I'll wrap up on that discussion by saying that we are expecting more. We are believing that the government of today will keep to their words in helping our educational standard.
Okay.
Now, the issue of insecurity, like you said, it has been overflogged. Discussion on insecurity is becoming a daily affair. Everybody in the country, every household discuss insecurity, and yet I don't have the indices to say it's in the rising, or I don't have the indices to say it's even been curtailed. But what I think is that in that sector again, there's a lot to do. Today we have an NSA, Roberto, that is vastly experienced in the issues of insecurity or security. So I think with the new service shifts we have at hand, we will see a drastic and concentrated attention to solving once and for all the issues of insecurity. They have 4 years to convince Nigerians that the thing of insecurity can be put to an end. So we are watching keenly. The issue of the returns of in the banditry used for sponsoring terrorism, I can't understand. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous at the time that we are hearing that such proceeds are used to. So the security agencies must rise. We have one of the most fantastic service chiefs now at hand. So I think they are also knowledgeable about where Nigeria is coming from in terms of insecurity. And it is a cause Nigerians are seriously willing, praying to God that it must come to an end. So we are looking at them to provide lasting solution on the issues of insecurity. In Rivers State last week, there was a gruesome killing of
a DPO.
A DPO, and it's sad. Thanks to government, they quickly swing into actions, and I think the person is almost being apprehended. They've been able to find out who carried out that attack and all of that. So insecurity is getting worse. The service chiefs must rise to the occasion and ensure that something different from what the past government did is going to happen. So that we see that people are suffering. I understand. People are not surviving. It's not easy to survive, but we must not resort to terrorism or. But
then the question is, do you think this is just something that we should leave in the hands of the service chief? Because, like you said, something happened last week in Rivers State.
Yes.
And I don't know if I should say it's because it affects a police officer, so it was easier for them to swing into action. And this, a week after, we are hearing stories that they found the person that did it, and everybody is looking towards capturing him somewhere somehow.
Yes.
But then we see issues of kidnapping. People get kidnapped, and it takes years. Nobody says anything about that. It's just swept under the carpet. And for some reasons, when you're kidnapped, they ask for ransom. These ransoms are paid somehow.
Yes.
So, but then it seems like they just disappear into the thin air, and nobody says anything about that. And that's why we're having this issue. Let's say, okay, yes, let's all agree that the monies from kidnapping are used to finance terrorism and all of that. Follow the money. But nobody does that. Once people, because I've heard stories and instances of people, even here in KAFTAN, I remember sometime last year, a core member was coming to work and she was picked up. A sister of a core member was coming to work and she never got to the office. What am I saying? A core member here was picked up and she never got to the office. They asked for ransom, and that her parents sent the money, and then they released her. They went to the police and all of that. Nobody said anything about that case till today. So it's more like what happened in Rivers State. Everybody swung into action because it was a DPO. But when it's not a DPO, what happened? So I feel like it's the negative attitude of all of the security agencies, because this is not a thing of the service chiefs. They won't solve all the problems on their own.
Yeah.
So it starts from the grassroots. The police that lives beside you, but when they are not doing anything, we can't all just keep looking and hoping that the service chiefs come to our aid.
Yes, well, you're somehow correct in your submission. You're somehow correct, but I think in the case of Rivers State, the responsiveness of the government, the governor quickly didn't tolerate. This is the first time he is in office. This is the first incident of a killing. So I think he didn't leave any stone unturned. He quickly swung into action, and that is what we expect from every strata. Not because it's a DPO, not because it's a service, is a security personnel, but that because it's a citizen, and that because the government is responsible to protect its citizens at the time. So I applaud the governor for coming into that case swiftly, and then today they are apprehending the person. Like you rightly said, it should proceed. It should be a precedent set for every citizens in the state, not because you are found in one cadre or the other. You understand? Now, if that also applies to insecurity in our country. It shouldn't be politicized, and it is not politicized to the best of my knowledge. What I want to, what I'm seeing here is that more efforts need to be put. When I talk about the service chiefs, they are the controllers of the agencies. They give directives. So, in collaboration with citizens, in collaboration with communities, I think they can come together and solve these things. People perpetrating these vices in the society are people around us. They are not spirits. They are human beings, and one way or the other, we are all related to them. So it's a combination. But people that are aiming their affairs are the service chiefs, and they need to keep the pace on ground. They need to bring out the strategy. They need to bring out the workability of how to solve these issues. That's why you see that on Easy Bear the Caps, anytime the issue comes, an issue comes around it, they are referred to. So it's not also a mistake to say they are the aim of affair of this, and they should bring out the strategies, they have the engagement with stakeholders, and deliberately see how we can solve this issue.
All right. And now moving away to the issues of insecurity, I want us to talk about the NLC proposed strike. I know that a week ago, NLC, there was a 2-day warning strike here in Nigeria. NLC that went on a 2-day warning strike. I know people that felt the impact of that strike. For me, I know that for like 2 days, there was no electricity anywhere. So, and that was a day before the tribunal judgment. I think on the day of the tribunal judgment, they brought it briefly, and there was light throughout the rest of the day. But for like 2 days, we saw how that panned out. So the NLC is hoping to go on another strike next week if something is not done by the government to provide palliative for the removal of fuel subsidy. That's the reason. So the NLC proposed strike. My question to you is it the right way to go? And what should they have done differently? Because my guest yesterday, I asked, don't you think it's too early for people to judge and conclude on the government not providing palliative? Because I know that aside the rice and spaghetti that we are sharing in some other states, the government is also trying to make some, like in Ogun State, they've started the CNG buses. So all of these things take time. So do you think we're being patient enough with the NLC's proposed strike, or the government is delaying too much?
Well, I think NLC shouldn't go on strike. To be very candid, strike have a way it dampens the spirit of the economy, and before the economy picks up again, it's not always easy. There is no money, there is no funding. People are struggling to survive. So, in as much as the strike is becoming a tool, a listening tool for government, I think I want us not to go to the route. There should be more dialogues. There should be more responsiveness. NLC should also check what our government did. It's one thing to give an ultimatum. It's one thing to also check this ultimatum you gave. What are the workabilities? What are the sustained lines that government can also meet up this thing? I think the present Tinubu's administration is bearing the pains of the past administration. That is the truth, without talking. If you take a look at his travels, the president travels abroad, you will see that his concentration is how to beef up Nigeria's economy. He understands what an economy, a stable economy means. And until these indices are put together, all these things we are talking about might not even be materialized. The government have tried their best. They've sent out billions to states. And we're also seeing the states using those funds to see what they can do. I don't know if you understand. So it's a gradual process. It's hitting hard. We are feeling they are delaying. But the truth is that do they even have money to do this? If they have money, are they not also going to push it into the right directions for it to occur? I saw a post, I think on social media, somebody saying that they gave assembly members, is it 100 million, and they are asking Nigerians to do that. Let me also break that in down. The House of Representative member or the legislator you're saying is not on his own. You also need to see the burden on them when they travel to their various constituencies. It's not easy. 100 million you give to an House of Rep member, by the time he gets back to his constituency, he will even spend more. However, that could be said on a member that is home worthy. There are some of these honorable members that even collect such money and keep in their homes. But I can tell you for free that even at our level, when we travel, we spend money. We are not having any government position. But to talk of people that are in government, if you see what they take out of their income per day, you will not believe it. So when they give an honorable member 100 million, eyebrows should not be raised. It is also indirectly going into the society. You understand? They are giving those monies to cushion the effect in their various constituency amidst those palliatives that has also gone out at the state level. So I think discussions should go on. I don't want I don't subscribe to the fact that or to the idea of going on strike again. When you go on strike, you shut down the economy. When the economy is down, it affects domestic production, it affects domestic income, it affects even the GDP, it affects even external transactions. So I think it shouldn't be a tool. NLC should calm down a little, still be romancing their discussions with government, put government to a speed mood, not using strike, but prior discussions, coming to tell Nigerians. NLC should also be coming to tell Nigerians what they are also doing to help the economy grow. Yeah. You understand? What they're also doing to them. This thing is all hands on deck. It's not for only government. Government are the pilots, but what are we also doing to ensure that we get out of this menace we are finding ourselves? Some companies, private companies, have resorted stay at home, work from my home. Company, yes, from home. Some days now we still work from home. These are measures. So NLC should also get their leaders and see how they can help the downline. The problem is because we go to work every day. The problem is because we want to buy fuel every day. Consumption is high. So what should NLC also do to say, okay, we in this sector, what do? We have 5 working days. We have 6 working days. Can we stream down? Can we?
I think most of the companies are doing that.
Can we help our companies? Can we help our downlines to see how we can help them? Instead of spending 30,000 a week, we restrict their coming to work at home. There are systems. In my company for the past going to 2 years, we don't owe physical meeting. We hold online meeting correctly. My director is in London few days. We've been holding meeting. Even this morning I got directives to go and carry out certain. I must not be in a workplace. So NLC should also come up with its own strategy, internal strategy of how these things can reduce. The pain and the stress of this fuel palliative is on the downline workers. So if you also begin to streamline working days and all that, you do not even need to go and rent a whole building as an office. You might just take a small office because you know that the staff strength. Office should just be where you have correspondent, physical correspondent, physical lecturers coming and all of that. But today's world, administrative work is squarely done from home. The physical presence is not really more effective. Once in a while, people can come together. So it will also, in a long while, remove us from this idea of you must rent a very big office. You have 300 staff. They must all come. They have their homes. They leave their homes over 6 to 7 to 8 hours. They are all there. With the exception to some very important companies that physical presence must be felt. Construction companies, you must be there to do your construction work.
Yes.
But anything administrative, and if they also begin to see it that way, it will also help people that are earning to save money for themselves. You rather buy data to operate from home than paying 2,000, 3,000 naira. I inspected I had inspection over some staff within my localities. As much as close as Duse or the Kubwa axis, they pay to and fro 3,000, 2,500 per day. And it's ridiculous.
Well, I think most Nigerians are already used to that.
So I used to
pay like half of that store.
The strike, to be sincere, is not the best instrument because it's still going to worsen situation. Yes, the time that you can see people are even relaxed. The time that you talk about strike and everybody wants to swing into action is gone. People are seeing the government is making real effort. State governors are making real effort to see how, because it's telling on them. It's really telling on them. It's not a thing that you say the rich are getting happy about it. No, this is about the
Everybody's
economy.
Feeling the
Everybody's affected. They all buy fuel. They all drive their cars. They even drive better, more than us. Their consumption is even high. So everybody else is on deck. NLC should also concentrate and see how they can profile solution, not a burden on government, but their own internal workings to see how they can talk to the working situation to say, okay, for now, let us also have this palliative on ground. Don't come to work Monday to Tuesday. Don't come to work Tuesday to Wednesday. Let's do this, let's do that. Mostly administrative staff. Where are the physical industries? Where are the non-physical industries? What can we do? Streamline.
To make life easier for everybody while we wait for the government. Thank you so much. That was our conversation with Duke Alamboye. He's a policy analyst. And together we're looking at some of the headlines we have this morning on our national dailies. And with that, we draw the curtain today on the press, coming to you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. Till I come your way tomorrow, I am Sandra Agu. Bye for now.